Alec Baldwin has been in the public spotlight for over 40 years as an actor and celebrity. He's been acclaimed as a great dramatic actor, comedic actor, and leading man. As a TV and movie star, he is among the elite in his craft. Alec Baldwin is also a man with a strong personality and outspoken opinions. He's had his share of controversy through the years, but nothing even close to what happened on the set of the Western movie Rust. While rehearsing a scene in a church, Alec drew his weapon and the gun discharged. A single bullet struck two people, cinematographer Helena Hutchins and director Joel Sousa. Helena died. Joel survived. There are a lot of questions surrounding what happened and why it happened, including how is it possible for a live round to get on the set, and who actually handed the loaded gun to Alec Baldwin. We'll bring in our experts to answer those questions and take a closer look at the celebrity impact of a man like Alec Baldwin in the courtroom as we investigate the Alec Baldwin movie set shooting. Thanks for joining us on Vinnie Politan. Alec Baldwin's a star. This guy's a star. He's I would say, like, superstar is the level where he is because of all the work that he's done in all different places. You're talking about hit TV shows. You're talking about big-time movies. Then he's always in the forefront, whether it's politics, Saturday Night Live. He does comedy. He does impressions. And he kind of oozes celebrity. That's who he is. He's also, like, larger than life. Someone who kind of fills up all the air in the room when he walks in. And we've seen him through the years with his share of controversy as well. What's interesting, though, is working here at Court TV through the years, we've covered a lot of celebrities in a lot of courtrooms. And through the years, you know, every time it happens, there's obviously a big spotlight on it. People want to know what's happening because it's very unusual, because you're living this celebrity life and you end up in a courtroom. And like, you are in the same position as any other litigant or defendant in a criminal case. And you're kind of put in this position, and it's kind of unusual to see someone like Alec Baldwin sitting in a courtroom with his liberty potentially at stake here if he's found guilty. He'll be cuffed, he'll be booked, he'll be locked up. That's what'll happen here. So through the years, we've talked about this concept of celebrity impact, and it's the impact on the courtroom, the impact on the jury, the impact on everything that's happening in his case. And historically, if you go back to old school court TV, right, the impact of being a celebrity and what would happen was very consistent and very obvious. And it was good for celebrities. Take a look. Like every time I was covering a celebrity case, I kind of knew what the outcome was going to be. There was just this impact that celebrities would have. You know, they're in that courtroom with the jury, you know, days, weeks, in the case of O.J. Simpson, months at a time. And there's something about a celebrity. But then, you know, Court TV, new school, the world has changed a little bit. And all of a sudden, that advantage, that celebrity impact, seems to be going the other way. Now, these have been in the criminal cases, and it's not like I don't think the public has necessarily turned on celebrities, but I think there's a little more skepticism. But we've also seen celebrities be very successful in court here in New School Court TV in civil cases. So where are we today? What is the celebrity impact? And specifically when you talk about Alec Baldwin, you know, how is that all going on? Let's bring in our guests who know a lot about celebrities and know a lot about courtrooms and the public. Entertainment reporter, host of Kinsey's LA Diaries on Talk TV, Kinsey Schofield is back with us. And celebrity attorney, supervising attorney at West Coast Trial Lawyers and the co-host of the very popular LA Legal podcast, Liana Catrian. I was close. It was
Very
close.
We'll take
You
it.
have no idea what your name looked like in that prompter with all the hyphens and trying to spell it out for me.
I saw the email. It's okay.
Catrian. All right.
Yes.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Great to have you both here. All right. Kinsey, let me ask you, is there more skepticism, cynicism, relative to celebrities these days? Are you seeing it? Is social media having an impact on the way people see celebrities? Or am I misreading this a little bit?
You know, I wonder if it has to do with how much showboating goes on inside these courtrooms. I think one thing we can all agree on when it comes to celebrity trials is they're not boring. We've seen a lot of Oscar winner Kevin Spacey lately in courtrooms. And back in the UK, he had Elton John testify in his defense. And while the jury was repeatedly reminded not to be starstruck by Spacey, the prosecutor actually admitted to being in awe of Elton John during the cross-examination. Spacey's charges were sexual assault. The jury acquitted him on all charges, and then five members of the jury stayed behind after Kevin was acquitted and sobbed to meet him. You know, you saw Ed Sheeran, who brought his guitar in a New York courtroom and performed in the witness box during his copyright trial, sued by Marvin Gaye's family and the Let's Get It On co-writer, claiming that that 70s hit was sampled by Sheeran and Thinking Out Loud. Sheeran won that. So does it matter that they're bringing in some of their celebrity friends? Does it matter that people are a little enamored by these people? Because Bill Cosby, you know, Jussie Smollett, a lot of these people didn't have a ton of individuals come behind them to support them. Harvey Weinstein, another example.
So, Liana, where do you see all this? You're in LA, you're in the midst of celebrities, you're inside courtrooms. Is the public turning on them? Because back in the day, they were Teflon inside a courtroom. Celebrities were Teflon. I mean, Robert Blake, Beretta. His wife is shot to death outside of a restaurant. His alibi for that was, oh, it wasn't me because I left my gun in the restaurant and I went back to go get it, and that's when she got shot. And the jury bought it. So where are we today?
Look, you're right. We're in LA. I see these things all the time. And I think a big part of it is that we are a culture that idolizes celebrities sometimes, right? We see their lives as sort of this parallel universe, and they sometimes are untouchable. So I think what we're seeing, especially as a result of social media, is that people are starting to demand that celebrities get the same kind of punishment, right? Because historically, at best, they would get a slap on the wrist and that was it. There's really nothing that happened to them. Certainly, we didn't really see a lot of celebrities serving jail times, right? And so when you start following these trials, they gain a lot of traction on platforms like TikTok, right? You get petitions and people are talking about it. I mean, let's talk about Johnny Depp, for example. There were people out in front of the courtroom, you know, on both sides. A lot of the women supporting Johnny Depp, others, you know, holding picket signs, condemning him. So I think social media is really sort of helping propel this change that we're seeing in celebrities and the type of trials that we're seeing them in, and also the punishments.
You know, the one thing about celebrities, Kinsey, and I'm sure you noticed this too, working with so many, is they have this sort of aura about them. And I think it comes from the confidence, it comes from performing, and it comes from years of knowing wherever you walk, there are eyes on you. But at a certain point, like, they walk in a room and there's something about it. Like, it's happened to me. Being, in the room with someone, like, oh my goodness, it's actually them. Like, it's hard to explain. And I can see how that happens, and how that you almost want to, even if it's someone like, you look and say, I really don't like them, but then you meet them in person, you love them, right? It's this natural reaction we seem to have.
Yeah, I mean, the same can be said about O.J. Simpson. Everybody that met O.J. was like, oh, he was so nice. He was so charismatic. I think in a witness box, a celebrity can find themselves truly exposed and vulnerable. And, typically to become a celebrity, you've had a team of people create a brand or a narrative around you to get you there. And that vulnerability in a courtroom risks jeopardizing that facade that has been constructed through publicists and media. But ultimately, you are right. It is about an it factor. And if you have that it factor, and people are naturally, if you are like a magnet, people are naturally attracted to you, it does give you a step up in the courtroom.
You mentioned O.J. Simpson. He came to Court TV years ago for an interview, and it was going to be a live interview. I was there as the backup in case he walked out of the set. I was going to sit down with Catherine Cryer, and I walked by the green room, and he says, "Hey, Vinnie," and I was like, "Whoa." But I walked into the room with him, and he had it. He had that, whatever it was. And I knew, I watched the trial. I know what the evidence was. But, I didn't feel afraid at all. But he had this thing where he knew how to kind of associate with people. And it was fascinating, and I still think about it today. Let me ask you, Liana, about actors specifically in courtrooms. Like, the jury knows that they're actors, right? Now, O.J. Simpson was an actor, but not an actor, right? But actors, so a jury has to decide, well, is that really the person, or are they acting? Do you think they're skeptical on that level as well when they speak, when they present themselves in a courtroom?
Well, I think that's something that's in the back of every juror's mind, right? I mean, you have an actor and then you have an actor, right? You have, during the Johnny Depp trial, right? Everyone seemingly was head over heels over this man. And then you put Amber Heard, she's also an actress, and she was just being picked apart left and right for her terrible acting skills. It was almost like we forgot what she was there for and what she was even testifying about. So I think it's something that's constantly in the back of every juror's mind, right? And then hopefully they remember that their job is to look at the evidence and forget that this is an actor. And hopefully they're not acting, right? But some of them, as you guys both mentioned, are just so charismatic. That's what makes them A-list celebrities, right? That's what makes OJ who he is there's a reason why he's OJ and he's different than the rest of us, right? It's their charisma, it's their aura, it's what they bring to the table. And so I think that's just something that's really difficult to shake off in a courtroom.
All right, our guests are staying with us. When we come back, we're going to zero in on Alec Baldwin. How will his reputation impact this trial?
You have the right to stop questioning at any time or stop questioning for the purpose of consulting a lawyer.
So my only question is, am I being charged with something?
No, we're just interviewing.
That's fine. That's fine.
But
I'm not worried because I'm not, yeah.
We have to do our job at,
yeah, no, just tell me that.
At advising you your rights, because this is an investigation.
Yeah.
Just a formality. You have to do it. You're here. We appreciate it.
What is today?
It is the 21st of October.
Oh.
That's an interesting moment, right? Now, he did end up being charged. Obviously, that's what this trial is about. But he did cooperate from the beginning. This wasn't someone who could have but didn't hide behind a lawyer immediately and just shut down. He sat down for interviews and spoke with the investigators immediately. But he also made other statements. He didn't just speak with investigators, he spoke publicly in different places about this. Take a look.
I've had more people who have been kind and thoughtful and generous of spirit than I've had, people who are malignant about the death of Helena Hutchins. I'm not afraid to say that. And to couch that in some euphemism, somebody died very tragically. Any suggestion that I am not complying with requests or orders or demands or search warrants about my phone, that's a lie. This is a process where one state makes the request of another state. Someone from another state can't come to you and say, give me your phone, give me this, give me that. They can't do that. Well, the people who likely seem negligent have no money. And the people who have money are not negligent. But we're not going to let that stop us from doing what we need to do in terms of litigation. So we have people that are suing people that they think are deep pockets litigants, where they're going to be able to, well, why sue people if you're not going to get money? That's what you're doing it for.
All right, there's Alec Baldwin speaking a lot. Still with us, Kinsey Schofield and Liana Kachatrian. Liana, I got it. Boop, boop, boop. I told you. Let me ask you, Liana, what do you think his impact of his celebrity and also his notoriety, whether it's positive or negative, is in this case? And what do you think will that have any impact on whether or not he decides to testify?
So my thoughts about Alec Baldwin, especially after this promo, are, that he seems to me like someone who's very erratic, right? I mean, any attorney, especially a defense attorney, is going to tell you, or at least tell their client, don't speak to media, don't speak to anyone, in fact, right? And you have someone who's just kind of gone on this tour of like giving interviews. He sat down with ABC, I believe it was. And so I think he's trying to play up the celebrity aspect, right? I think he's trying to show us that, look, I'm this A-list celebrity. I've done nothing wrong. I'm here talking about everything that happened and being very forthcoming and transparent. Don't be pointing the fingers at me, right? And he said that verbatim in several interviews. And I wouldn't be surprised if he takes the stand. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes the stand against his defense attorney's advisement, should they advise him not to, because it's just, I feel like we've seen that track record. He's gone on his social media, as I mentioned, he's done interviews. So is he going to take the stand? I think he will.
Kinsey, what is his public reputation? What does the world think of him, and what does Hollywood think of him?
Oh my gosh, Vinnie, if you think about some of his most salacious moments, remember when he was kicked off an American Airlines flight because he wanted to play Wordle? He didn't want to turn his phone off, so he was kicked off the plane. He went rage tweeting about it immediately afterwards. He got in a fight with a neighbor about a parking spot and was arrested for that. He got in a fight with a paparazzi outside of his house when Ireland was born, arrested for that. He was arrested for driving, no, not even driving, for riding his bicycle the wrong way on a New York sidewalk or a New York street, and then was aggressive towards the police about it and was arrested for that. So, I mean, he's got a reputation for being pretty aggressive. And if you were to ask me how to handle Mr. Baldwin and his big personality, I would tell you sedatives. I am completely surprised by the individual we've seen in the courtroom. He's actually very calm, respectful, peaceful. And I'm so glad tonight you reminded me that he is an award-winning actor, because I've been feeling sympathy for him as I've been watching him throughout this trial.
He's been incredibly appropriate in court, like amazingly appropriate. And we look at him right here. I mean, I think he's doing everything right. I want to show you something, Liana. This happened today. The prosecutor was making an argument. Jury's not in the room, but the prosecutor's making her argument, and then Alec, for some reason, we're not sure why, decides to exit the courtroom. Let's take a look.
Mr. Baldwin's motivation to lie about pulling the trigger of the gun. I'm 63 years old with 6 kids. I can't rely on luck anymore. He's talking about his career and that he can't rely on luck anymore. This goes exactly to his motivation.
I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Liana, what are your thoughts about that moment? It was interesting. There's a woman in the back. It was like literally an eyebrow-raising moment. She kind of goes like this when he stands up. But I don't know why. Maybe he just had to use the facilities. I'm not sure. Maybe an important phone call. But what are your thoughts about that moment?
So he's definitely playing the role of a lifetime, right? I mean, his life is on the line. And I don't know if that was a restroom break because of the attorney's reaction. It's almost like he's saying, hey, come back. Like, what are you doing? So I think this is very on par, very on brand with who he is, right? Except it's just more of like a tailored down version, a courtroom version of his bigger than life personality. It seems to me by everyone's reactions that he just didn't want to be there anymore and he needed to step out before maybe he loses control. Who knows?
All right, we're out of time for tonight, but a big thank you. We'll be speaking again about this as the trial continues. Kinsey Schofield and Liana Kachatrian, appreciate it. Have a great, great night. We'll see you again soon. When we come back, we're going to talk about the ammo. The ammo on the set of a movie. How is it supposed to be stored, and did they do it the right way on the set of this movie?
I left my wife and 6 kids in New York to come here for a month to shoot this movie, and I'm the one that shot the gun today that had a live bullet go through that woman's body and into his body. And I need to know, how did that happen? Where did that bullet come from?
Where did that live round come from? You know, I watched the first trial, and I think prosecutors want us to believe that it was, in fact, Hannah Gutierrez who was responsible for introducing that live round. To me, it's still not 100% clear. There were some strange things going on in that set. There was evidence being thrown and tossed away and people not getting charged with it. So there's some unusual circumstances surrounding this very unusual case and this unusual investigation. And that's something that was actually pointed out by the defense in their opening statement, talking about chaos on the scene, but chaos in the investigation, in securing the scene and trying to figure these things out. And to me, that's a big issue, which still leaves a lot of questions, because that's another one of the first questions everyone's asked. You know, who loaded the gun, and why is there a live round on the set? Who brought it there? And I don't think at this point it's 100% clear. But I want you to take a listen to the defense opening statement laying out some of the confusion in this crime scene.
The armorer is yelling, sorry. Hall's the first assistant director is panicked. The prop master, Sarah Zachary, I don't know exactly where she is at that point, but they check the gun feverishly. They take the ammo out of the gun. They look at it, what the heck happened? They go back to the prop cart that houses the ammo. They're touching the gun and manipulating the gun, emptying it. They go and move some stuff off the prop cart, trying to figure it out. Sarah Zachary, the head of props, will tell you she threw some stuff out. And eventually, of course, EMS and police arrive pretty soon thereafter. They immediately recover the prop gun and they secure it. That's off to the side. And the reason that you preserve things in the moment is so that you know what existed in the moment, the evidence in the moment, the people and the witnesses and what they said in the moment. These folks, the members of Rust, they'd never been through anything like this before. That is why what they originally said matters so much in this case. If you remember anything I say today as the evidence proceeds, remember that. Look at the evidence of what the people of Rust said and did that day. Life changes, memories change, there are human motivations, internal pressure, external pressure. That's why preservation is so important. So the police continue. In terms of the prop cart and the prop ammo that's on the cart, it's manipulated, altered, kind of messy. And, you know, at this accidental shooting on a movie set, the police begin to make some mistakes. No one had ever investigated a prop gun on a movie set before. They recover the prop gun, but they don't wear gloves. They don't have the prop cart inside the crime scene. Someone moves it onto the crime scene. people start touching it and showing, okay, this is a dummy, this is a blank. And then they make another mistake that matters in this case with some more significance, which is that they don't secure the prop truck that houses the cart. See, that cart that they roll off comes from a truck where all of the ammunition, all of the firearms are, and that's where they're stored. They don't secure the prop truck for several days. And then the prop house that supplies the truck, that supplies the cart, they don't secure for over a month.
So I think we need to get a clearer picture of how this works on a movie set. How the prop guns and the prop ammo go from point A to point B to point C into the actor's hand, and where it's kept and who has access and what it's supposed to look like. Need some experts to do that. Joining us tonight, prop master, armorer, author. He literally wrote the book, Prop Gun Safety for Film and TV. Dutch Merrick is with us. Also joining us, film director for Rosso Films International, Stefano De Frey. Great to have both of you here tonight. Thank you so much. Let's talk about this, Dutch. I want to go through some photos here. We heard mentioning an armorer cart. Okay, I want to show you a photo of the armorer cart from the Rust movie set. You can start with one word and then expand on it. What are you seeing here?
Well, I've heard a lot of people say, you know, that the cart was a total mess, and I can't cast judgment because this was right after someone got shot and people were running around haywire, and the prop master had gone over and taken a bunch of objects off the cart quickly and took them to the prop truck. So I don't really know what the cart looked like on the day, so I'm a little want to reserve judgment. Although photos I've seen of how the prop truck was and photos of how I've seen their carts were on previous days, it was disorganized and haphazard, to say the least.
And what is supposed to be on the armorer cart or this prop cart, and how should it be organized? Where should it be kept, and who should have access?
So there isn't a set of guidelines or an industry standard that says you have to do this or that. A lot of people are self-taught and have developed habits of their own. But for the most part, many of us use a cart just like that, what we call a Rubbermaid cart. And we use those to push all sorts of props and gear around. When I work on SEAL Team, we have 6 or 7 of those carts that are dedicated to one particular type of guns. One is AK-47s and one's HK-416s or something like that. We will keep the guns covered, and we'll keep a person by the cart at all time. If you are running a show where you're understaffed, oftentimes people will bolt a lockbox to the cart, the top or the bottom, so they can lock things up and then step aside and go to the set. But you'll have things very organized and neat and free of any other contamination. It's just going to be the prop guns, it's going to be the blank ammunition and dummies, and perhaps a few small tools to clean the guns and perhaps clear a jam. But it's going to be very organized. And that cart comes on and off of, in the case of a larger show, the armorer's truck, or a smaller show, the prop master's truck. And that cart just stays in isolation just for guns, on and off the truck, and that's it. And the guns, you had talked about, you know, where they come from. You rent them from a prop house. So we will, as an armorer, in my case, I'm a licensed armorer, so I can go to one of the major prop houses in LA and I can pick up automatic weapons, for example, and I will put them into a locked container that is bolted to the frame of my vehicle. Although if you're a prop master and you just need to rent a standard revolver or a shotgun or something, you can get that in a locking case and throw it in the trunk of your car, bring it to set. Secure it in a gun safe. Almost every prop master that I know has at least a thin metal gun safe bolted to inside their truck, secured to the side of it, so you can't just run away with the safe itself. So again, the guns and the ammunition, even the ammunition goes in the safe so that nobody else has access to the ammunition. So that is our sort of, our domain, is anything blanks, dummies, firearms is going to be the armor, or in a smaller show, like I say, the prop master is fully qualified to handle any of those things.
Now, you mentioned, and the attorney mentioned, the prop truck. Stefano, let's take a look at the prop truck here. You see the cart inside the truck. From your experience, is that a place you would go, or are you relying on other folks to do that while you're directing your films?
So we also had a lockbox as well, obviously, and being an independent film, and you know, ours would look much more organized, was much more organized on Stolen Doe that we had firearms. It's mostly a place, the only people that had keys for that was the props master on set and the armorer. So that's not generally a place that even I had the key to, and that's really important in terms of liability and responsibility, because I'm hiring an experienced armorer, I'm hiring people that are experienced to be doing this, and I'm not understaffing people. We know from the film for this set of Rust, the disorganization, and we also know how understaffed they were. And we also know, I want to say a last point about Seth Kenney, who had the supplies on the 12th of October. And those 50 dummy rounds he gave, there was some testimony as to, if it got mixed in with Sarah Zachary, who was the prop supervisor, and some speculation as to, whether there was some differences in supplies that arrived. So, all I can say is this is a very unusual situation that happened on Rust.
Now, Dutch, let's go back now to the prop house. We have a photo of the prop house. What role does the prop house play? What do you think of this prop house? And is this where the ammo starts? It comes from the prop house, goes into the truck to be delivered, or individual delivers it? How does it go from point A to point B here, the ammo?
Well, it's funny, looking at these photos, the term prop house has a whole new meaning, because it's sort of a colloquial meaning in the film industry going back, I would imagine, more than 100 years, where the business that stores and rents all these props that we call a prop house. But as you can see, Seth Kenney's looks like he literally lives in it. It looks like a house. And I want to backstep just a moment, because something Stefano triggered in my head. He was talking about how he, as the director, wouldn't have the keys to the prop truck, because of course not. The only people that are going to have the keys to my prop truck are me and my department and the armorers. But in the case of Rust, I heard in testimony that that truck was being shared by 4 departments, including armory and props and location and production. So they had one big 5-ton truck for all those departments, which implies that they all had the combination to the lock or a key. Now, back to your question about ammo. The ammo is created, it's manufactured by one of a handful of blank manufacturers in the industry in America. They also will manufacture, excuse me, they will also manufacture dummies. So again, we think about a dummy and a blank. A dummy, 4 parts of a cartridge of a regular bullet are the case, the primer, the bullet, and the powder. A blank has no bullet. A dummy has no powder. So each of those has 3 parts of a cartridge. But a blank manufacturer will manufacture those. They will sell them to a prop house, a rental house, such as PDQ Arms, in this case, Seth Kenney's business that he bought blanks and dummies, I believe, from Joe Swanson. So he'll maintain an inventory of those. Some people may keep some on hand so they can sell them to shows quickly, but usually they're bought to order. So they'll go from the possession of the prop house, and every prop house that I know has all of their blank ammunition under lock and key. And it doesn't seem that Seth Kenney's blank supply was under lock and key. And the fact—
Before we run out of time in this segment, let me ask you this important question from my perspective. Are there prop houses that would have live ammunition as well? Is there ever a reason?
No, and that's what I want to point out. No prop house in America that I know would have live ammunition. We don't rent it, we don't sell it, we don't deal with it. If they need security, they hire a security guard. They just don't stock anything like that. So he was running this like a home business.
All right, Dutch Merrick, Stefano DeFrey staying with us, our experts. When we come back, there's another question I have about this case. Who actually handed the gun to Alec Baldwin? And how does that work on other movie sets?
A-list actor Alec Baldwin is cast in the real-life role he never wanted.
I turn come because the gun goes off.
Criminal defendant.
The Alec Baldwin manslaughter trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
A-list actor Alec Baldwin is cast in the real-life role he never wanted.
I turn come because the gun goes off.
Criminal defendant.
The Alec Baldwin manslaughter trial. Weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
There is zero evidence in this case that Alec Baldwin brought a live round onto set, correct?
Correct.
There is zero evidence in this case that Alec Baldwin loaded that live round into that gun, right?
Correct.
Of course, that's correct. We all know that, but the defense is establishing what they need to establish in front of the jury. But the question I have is, how did Alec Baldwin get the gun in his hand? Like, who handed it to him? I was always under the presumption that it was very clear and it was very precise, the process of how the gun ends up in the actor's hand. But I want you to take a listen. We're going to play for you 3 clips from 3 different interviews. Let's begin with Hannah Gutierrez, her police interview regarding this issue of how Alec Baldwin got the gun.
So I loaded it with 5 of the dummy rounds before lunch, and there was one that wouldn't go in. And so when we got back from lunch, I took the little cleaner guy, I cleaned it out really quick, and I put another dummy in there.
And so when you checked it, it was on set or prior to you transferring?
Yeah, it was on set. I didn't really check it too much after lunch, because it was already locked up and everything at lunch. But yeah, I checked it and put in that last round. And I went inside to hand him the gun.
Oh,
he was standing in pretty much.
Okay, so you didn't just hand it and then he walked off? And then
Yeah,
so
I handed it to Dave with the camera people there.
Okay. So you were close to the door when you handed it?
I was inside for a second, and then I went back out because,
They tell you to get out.
Okay, so she hands it to David Halls, who's the assistant director. Then she says she gets out of the room. That's what she said in her police interview. Here's David Hall's police interview.
I'm also the safety coordinator.
What does the safety coordinator entail?
It's just overseeing all the departments and making sure that they're following protocols for whatever stunt or gunfire. Hannah brought me the gun. It was empty at the time. She said, I want to check the gun with you. She did all the things that we just talked about. Then she came back and said, I've put dummy loads in it, dummy rounds. She opened up the hatch, and I saw 3 bullets that all had depressed primers.
So you said when she showed you the first time, the gun was empty.
It was moments before we actually, put the dummies. It might have been 5 minutes.
Okay, so within okay. So then 5 minutes later, she brings it back, tells you that there are dummy rounds in it.
Yeah.
And it's not clear there from that interview, if he hands it, he doesn't say it one way or the other. But now listen to Alec Baldwin, the one who had the gun in his hand. Who gave you the gun? Take a listen.
I went to lunch. She disarmed me. I sat down.
She being?
Hannah, the armaments person. She was always handling the guns, or 99% of the time. So I would, if I had a cosmetic rifle with no rounds, I would probably hand it to one of her assistants. I'm sitting there. She disarms me. We go to lunch. We come back from lunch, and they hand me the revolver, the Colt.
And I just like so name. It's Hannah again.
They arm me, and you're assuming, as we've done every time, that it's a cold gun for the rehearsal.
So sometimes you would hand the gun to Hall, but he never, he never handed the gun to you.
No.
Okay.
No, never.
Right before this incident, Hannah handed you the gun and said, Colt. It wasn't Dave.
I don't mean Colt. No, Hannah handed me the gun.
Okay. It wasn't anybody else but Hannah.
No, Hannah handed me the gun.
Okay, why is there confusion here? Stefano, is there, on your sets, is there a specific way that you do this, each and every time? Or is it who's here and it kind of varies from moment to moment, scene to scene?
No. So, Vinny, I'm so glad that you asked me this question. First of all, the only person that should be handling the firearms is the armorer. That's number one. But I also realized something in this case that I've never seen in 20 years of Hollywood and doing movies. David Halls said in his testimony that he was the safety quote unquote coordinator. And I'm sure he was at that level of because they were so low budget and understaffed, but he's also the first assistant director. I mean, think about how the job of first AD is to assist the production, to be the director. I've never been on a set where the first AD is the one handling the weapon and also doubling up as the safety coordinator. It should have never been the assistant director, should have never been the first AD. It should only be the armorer who is taking that gun from Mr. Baldwin and then also checking it and then giving it to him.
Dutch Merrick, you literally wrote the book. Is there a specific standard operating procedure for who hands the gun to the actor?
Well, I want to clear up what might be a little confusion here. After Brandon Lee's death, the AMPTP, the producer side, decided to assign one point person a safety role, a key safety officer. And they said since the first AD is right close to the action and they're supervising that whole process, they made them actually the chief safety officer technically. In the instance of Rust, there's confusion over who was holding the gun, who was handing the gun to Alec Baldwin. And I've heard Alec himself testify both ways. That first statement, he seemed to be led right into, yeah, she handed me the gun. And then later he says that Dave Halls handed him the gun. So there's definitely some ambiguity. And Dave Halls didn't say at all during that process whether he did or not. And please remind me of the question. I'm sorry, I got off track.
Yeah, well, is there a standard way or a standard operating procedure for an actor to be handed a gun? Like, is it the same scene to scene to scene? Does it change?
Yes.
Does it vary on circumstances? You know, who's closest to the gun, or how does that work?
No, there's absolutely one person in charge of the gun on that set. And if it's a prop master that doesn't have armors working with them, it's the prop master handling that simple gun, maybe a shotgun, a rifle, a revolver. Anything beyond that, you're going to have an armorer, and it's just the armorer handling the guns, and anyone in the department they appoint to be their assistant. Usually have an assistant armorer or the prop master handing guns to the actors directly, and when the scene is over, they come collect the guns at the end of the scene. That's it, full stop. Nobody else touches the guns. The first AD does have a set of eyes. He can put a set of eyes on the process, and as you're loading in that instance with Dave Halls and Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, she could have been loading it in his presence. He could have had the option of shaking each round if he wanted, or listening, watching her drop it in if he opted to do that, but she's ultimately supposed to be the only set of hands on the gun before it goes to the actor.
All right, want to thank you both, Dutch Merrick and Stefano Defray. Great insight, great experience, and hopefully someday I'll be on a movie set and you guys will be helping me work through a scene someday.
We got a part for you, Vinny. We got a part for you.
Excellent. My agent's going to talk. I don't even have an agent, by the way. All right. Before we go, thank you so much to Dutch and Stefano. Before we go tonight, folks, we have a missing child who needs your help. This is Jomani Ali. Jomana is 16 years old. If you see her, pick up the phone, make the call. Missing out of Fairfield, Connecticut since July 2nd. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Fairfield Police Department in Connecticut. That phone number is on the screen. Let's see if we can get Jomana to a safe place tonight. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night, and as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.